Maybe the most entertaining game of the day will take place in New Orleans when the San Francisco 49ers come to town to play the Saints. San Francisco is installed as a 1-point favorite in this game on BETDAQ. 48.5 is the total. Now, I said San Francisco was favored. That's notable because before the Saints' last home game against Atlanta, they had a streak of 30-some-odd consecutive home games in which they were favored. Again, that was snapped in their last game. Atlanta was favored in that game because Atlanta was undefeated going into the game. Of course, they weren't undefeated coming out of the game, Saints winning that ball game. Nevertheless, for the second straight home game now, New Orleans is an underdog, despite the fact they've won 5 out of the last 6 ball games. They've covered all 5 of those games, and they are 15-3 against the spread in their last 18 home games. That's right. The Saints are 15-3 against the number in their last 18 home games, despite the fact they've been favored in 17 of those 18 games. That is remarkable. There has been no better bet in the NFL over the last couple of years than the New Orleans Saints at home. And this could be an excellent sell-high opportunity with the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco coming off a dominating 32-7 win over the Chicago Bears last week. That game was prime time on national television. There were a lot of eyeballs watching it. Everybody had to be blown away and impressed by the 49ers' performance. I know I was. What about their quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, a backup heading into the game, limited experience. He's not a backup anymore. Jim Harbaugh did name Kaepernick the starter this week for Sunday's game, and presumably for the rest of the season as long as Kaepernick plays well. And I got to say, coming into the game, part of my uncertainty with that game, I would have leaned heavily towards the 49ers. As I said in my preview of that game last week, I still thought the 49ers would win, but really thought that Chicago defense was going to dominate that 49ers offense, so wasn't sure about the number. At one point, there was a 49ers -7 market on BETDAQ, and I did like Chicago at that price, Chicago +7. Of course, again, the 49ers just blew their doors off, ended up winning by 25 points. And again, part of my uncertainty coming into that game with the Niners revolved around Kaepernick. I mean, this is a guy who viewed as a run-first quarterback. I mean, he certainly was a run-first quarterback in college, has very limited experience in the pros, very green. And Alex Smith, even though he has not been great, he's at least reliable, reliably average, I think is the best way you could describe Alex Smith. I haven't seen Alex Smith play very many games like Colin Kaepernick played last week. The Chicago Bears have one of the best defenses in the NFL. This week, Kaepernick's going up against the worst defense in the NFL, at least in terms of yards allowed, rush defense. They're next to last in pass defense. The New Orleans Saints, again, they've been playing a little better on defense over the last couple of weeks. You'll give them that. But still, this has been a historically bad defense this season. And what's most disturbing from a Saints perspective heading into this game is that 32nd in the league in rush defense number, giving up 157 yards per game on the ground. That's because San Francisco is number 1 in the NFL in rushing offense, and you only expect that number to get better with Colin Kaepernick under center because we know he can definitely run the ball. And so San Francisco might just be able to pound the ball in this game, keep the New Orleans offense on the sideline. I'm sure that's going to be their formula going in. Whenever the New Orleans offense is on the field, it's sure going to be fun to watch that offense going up against this San Francisco defense. San Francisco, if it's not Pittsburgh as the best defense in the league, then it is San Francisco. San Francisco, number 2 in the NFL in pass defense, number 2 in total defense, number 1 in the NFL in points allowed. The Niners only allowing 13.4 points per game. But this New Orleans offense, especially at home, I mean, we've seen it for years now. Drew Brees, I mean, it's machine-like. This year, just like always, he's passing for 296 yards per game. That's 3rd in the NFL. They're 4th in points scored. And again, they just get better on that fast track. As a matter of fact, even though I said I'm very concerned from a Saints perspective about their rush defense in this game against that 49ers offense, the 49ers might possess the ball for 40 minutes and just dominate this game that way. But I don't know. I'm not going to bet against the Saints in this spot. As a matter of fact, I like the Saints here. I think this is a good sell-high time for the San Francisco 49ers after they're coming off a big performance that a lot of people were watching last week against the Chicago Bears. Colin Kaepernick, I know he looked great last week. I think he should be starting this week because you don't see Alex Smith have many games like Colin Kaepernick had last week. But, hey, he is a very inexperienced guy going on the road in a hostile environment, and he's going to have to keep pace in this game. As good as the Niners defense is, they're not going to be able to shut down the Saints offense. I mean, they might have a lot of success against them, and if they have success against them, that means they can hold them to, 20, 24 points, something like that. If you can limit the Saints to 20 or 24 points at home, that is a great effort on defense. And I bet you the Niners, if you asked them honestly, would probably take 20 points allowed in this game, and they'd probably win the game if they only allowed 20 points. But Colin Kaepernick's going to have to keep up in this game. Wouldn't be surprised. He's a young guy. Wouldn't be surprised if he turned the ball over a time or two. I like Drew Brees versus Colin Kaepernick, especially in New Orleans, especially when I'm not having to give any points, especially when the Saints are actually slight underdogs. So I will be having to play on this game. I will be backing the New Orleans Saints.